$9 million moved under my initials, but I never touched the file, and that's when everything snapped into place. My access vanished the moment I asked for proof. That wasn't a glitch, it was timing. They counted on my silence. They forgot I track every line.
This is what happened next.
$9 million was moved under my credentials. And the first question HR asked me was why I didn't follow the usual procedure. That was my warning. 20 minutes later, my system access was temporarily restricted, effective the exact moment I requested copies of the authorization files. No explanation, no investigation, just silence. And in a law firm, silence after a financial discrepancy isn't neutral. It's strategic. Especially when the partner who oversees the case is the same person who insisted the ledger was already fully reconciled before anyone had even reviewed it. Something wasn't adding up. Not in the numbers. And not in the way they moved when I started asking questions. Whatever this was, it wasn't a mistake. It was preparation. My name is Ava Marlowe, Senior Legal Operations Manager at Carson & Hale, LLP, a mid-sized corporate law firm handling high-risk regulatory disputes and year-end settlements for large financial clients. I don't argue cases. I don't appear in court. I'm the person who ensures nothing collapses behind the scenes, the one who tracks compliance deadlines, settlement disbursements, risk exposure, and audit documentation. If the attorneys are the face of the firm, legal ops is the spine, and I was very, very good at my job. Yet in the last week, something shifted. A strange coldness from leadership. My boss, Ethan Royce, the firm's managing partner, stopped giving me eye contact. I'd walk into rooms and conversations would stop. Files moved without record. Invoices routed through channels I didn't recognize. Then today happened. $9 million tied to a settlement disbursement for a class action case. Money that was supposed to go to injured workers. Money that appeared in the ledger to have been rerouted into a discretionary trust. Under my approval, except I never approved it. A soft Christmas playlist drifted through the lobby speakers. Twinkling lights framed the front desk, but the festive cheer only made the pressure in my chest heavier. Something was wrong. Something big. I tried to log in again. Still locked out. I walked to HR, past garlands taped to office doors, and knocked. Maya, the HR coordinator, looked up, startled. Ava, Ethan told us you were taking personal leave. My stomach tightened. I never requested leave, I said, and my access was revoked without notice. She hesitated. Ethan said you were experiencing performance strain, that maybe you needed time to stabilize. A quiet insult disguised as concern, the first procedural failure. My record is spotless, I said, and we're in the middle of year-end settlement accounting. Someone has altered my approvals. She winced. I can't escalate this without Ethan's authorization. HR investigations don't require partner authorization. I know, she whispered, but that's the instruction I was given. There it was, chain of command manipulation. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. A message from Lily Santos, one of our paralegals on the settlement case. Did you approve the trust transfer? Ethan said to finalize everything today. Another micro reveal. Someone was using my name as a shield, as a signature, as a scapegoat. I typed back, do not finalize anything. Call me immediately. And I walked out of HR feeling like the floor had tilted under me. I reached an empty conference room and answered Lily's call. Ava, what's happening? Ethan said the disbursement ledger was cleared. He said you confirmed the client sign-off. I never signed anything. Silence. Then, he brought us the approval sheet with your initials. My mouth went dry. Describe it, I said quietly. It looked off. Different pen, different spacing. Honestly, it looked traced, forged, my signature, on a $9 million trust transfer. This wasn't negligence. This was intent. Ava, she whispered. Ethan said the money was already moved. He said to close the file before the freeze, the year-end freeze. 7 days when no financial adjustments could be made without partner authorization. If the trust transfer closed before the freeze, reversing it would take months, maybe longer. Long enough to bury the truth. Don't close anything, I said. Do not touch the file. My voice shook, but not from fear, from clarity. Someone was moving money in a way that violated both regulatory reporting requirements and ethical duties, and they were pinning it on me. The hallway felt warmer when I stepped out. A garland of pine and gold ornaments lined the railing. Someone had set out a tray of gingerbread cookies shaped like little gavels. The firm was glowing with holiday cheer, and I was standing in the middle of a professional ambush. I walked to the window overlooking the city. Snow fell in slow, soft flakes, gathering along the ledges. Somewhere far below, people were shopping, laughing, taking photos in front of the courthouse tree. I pressed my hand lightly against the cold glass. The warmth and joy outside only sharpened the isolation that wrapped around my chest. And yet, beneath that isolation, something inside me hardened. Not defeat. Resolve. They picked the wrong person to frame. If you've ever watched people in power twist the truth, or rewrite your role, or try to make you doubt what you know, you're not alone. And I hope this story reminds you that quiet strength is still strength. I walked down the hallway toward the partner wing. Most of the glass offices were dark except one. Through the frosted glass, silhouettes moved. Voices carried, Ethan's voice among them. We can't let her raise questions right now. She already saw the ledger. HR documented performance instability. That should cover us. She won't escalate. She's too careful. A cold spike slid through me. They expected my silence, my caution, the traits that made me good at my job, to be the reasons I wouldn't fight back. The CFO of the firm's finance arm spoke next. If this hits the audit committee, they'll ask why the trust was created without compliance review. Trust. Created. Without compliance. That was a catastrophic breach of legal ethics. And a criminal liability risk depending on where the money went. Ethan muttered, "We're too far in. She needs to stay off the system until January. By then, the distribution will be closed and..." I didn't hear the rest. Rage burned behind my ribs. They were burying the transfer. They were burying me with it. And they thought I wouldn't fight. At 5:07 p.m., my phone buzzed. A message from IT. "Your system access has been restored. Happy holidays." I almost laughed. It was the least festive message I'd ever seen. They wanted me to log in, to finish the paperwork, to clean up the audit trail, to make the forged signature real. It was a trap wrapped in polite holiday cheer. I sat at my desk, heart steady, and opened the ledger. The trust transfer glowed in bright red, a highlight Ethan must have enabled to draw attention. But clicking deeper into the metadata revealed something he didn't expect. The trust account had been opened under a shell corporation. Not a client, not a beneficiary. A shell linked to an entity out of Delaware with no licensing record. This wasn't misallocation. This was financial misconduct, and not small misconduct. This was the kind that shutters firms. A calendar notification popped up. Mandatory all-staff holiday meeting, 20 minutes. The firm's annual Christmas address, partners giving speeches, hot cocoa in silver urns, joking remarks about year-end billables. Every employee would be there, including the people trying to silence me. An idea formed, sharp, terrifying, undeniable. If they wanted my silence, the safest place to speak was where they couldn't bury it. I walked to the auditorium early. Staff filtered in, laughing softly, the smell of peppermint cocoa filling the room. Twinkling lights framed the stage. Someone in marketing had even put a Santa hat on the podium. Ethan stood near the front, smiling too broadly, his hands clasped behind his back like a man pretending not to panic. The CFO hovered nearby. Maya from HR looked pale. The stage lights dimmed. The CEO stepped up, and I stood. Before the presentation, I said, "I need to report a critical issue affecting our year-end settlement compliance." The room froze. The CEO blinked. Ethan turned slowly, his face draining of color. Lily looked at me with wide eyes from across the aisle. I continued, voice steady. A $9 million trust transfer was processed under my forged approval. No compliance review occurred. No beneficiary authorization was filed. And the associated metadata ties the account to an unlicensed shell entity. Gasps rippled through the auditorium. Whispers spread like wind. Ethan stepped forward. "She's confused?" "No," I said. The HR file claiming performance instability was created yesterday, and the trust transfer violates both regulatory requirements and ethical obligations. The CEO's expression hardened into something sharp. "Maya," he said to HR, "pull her personnel file. Now." Then to Ethan. In my office, immediately. Security moved without waiting for further instruction. The CFO followed, pale and shaking. Lily's eyes met mine. Relief, shock, exhaustion all blended into one. The truth wasn't just out, it was undeniable. The next morning, the audit committee contacted me directly. Not through Ethan, not through HR, directly. My findings were validated. The trust transfer was frozen. External counsel was engaged. The firm initiated a formal misconduct investigation. Ethan was placed on administrative leave. The CFO was temporarily removed from financial oversight. HR was instructed to undergo compliance retraining. I walked outside into the crisp December air. Snowflakes drifted across the city, glowing under the soft morning light. Somewhere a choir was singing carols. Somewhere families were preparing holiday meals. Somewhere warmth and joy existed untouched by corporate greed. I pulled my scarf tighter and breathed in. It wasn't the Christmas I expected, but it was the one where I chose truth over fear, integrity over silence, myself over someone else's agenda. And for the first time in weeks, my lungs felt full. If you've ever stood alone against people who thought their power mattered more than your truth, I hope this reminds you. Quiet courage can still change everything. Take care of yourself tonight.